Thank you, Chair, and I hope your voice recovers very soon. Good on you for soldiering on.
It'd be great if I was in a job where I didn't have to talk. Not today.
Chair, I seek to table a letter, if I may. I have some copies here. Thank you. While that's been provided...
Senator Van, the usual practice is we'll provide them to the witnesses so they can speak to them.
Yes.
And we'll ensure there's no privacy issues before we officially table it.
Sure. I've provided it to the Secretariat to give to the...
We'll just make sure there's no
Thank
issues.
you. I'll try and do better next time.
No. I just want to... I am confident there's no names or anything in here, but we'll just check.
Thank you. While that's being circulated to you, the letter does refer to some names, and Assistant Commissioner Chris Craner and an Assistant Commissioner Hans Kerderink. Thank you for helping me with my pronunciation. I believe Mr Craner is no longer with the AFP?
That's correct.
And Mr Kerderink is?
Correct.
If I write to you before next estimates, would you undertake to have him appear before us?
I'm sorry, I don't know what the process is in terms of... He's no longer a member of the AFP, Senator.
Mr Kerderink?
Oh, sorry, Mr Kerderink?
Yes.
If you'd like to call him as a witness, we'll facilitate that.
Great, thank you. Now, in this letter from the Australian Federal Police Association, it sets out some fairly damning claims that seem to be cooperated with a lot of witnesses and your own staff, including Acting Commissioner Kernerink. I believe the second date that's mentioned, 30th of July, should be 30th of June, so I'll just make that clear if you would agree with that. But it states at a meeting on that date, the 30th of June 2022, that and the meeting was with AFPA staff, members of Bulwark 58, former Assistant Commissioner Craner and Assistant Commissioner Kerderink. And it was agreed that there was a serious safety issue with those undercover agents. When asked before about this, you declined to answer that was true or not.
I'd have to review what I actually said last time, Senator, but...
OK, well, we'll step through it. So you've got plenty of time tonight to do so. It also says that while they were told that those members, those undercover members, were told that there was a risk assessment had been done, the letter says it had never been done. A risk assessment has never been done for the Bulwark 58 members, has it?
Senator, it's fair to say it's a fairly detailed letter. I think through the last process you've sent detailed questions on notice for us to answer, and we're still working through those. I just think I haven't seen this letter for quite a long time. As a matter of completeness, we'll take that on notice and come back to you with those other questions.
It was only sent last week.
Oh, sorry, it was only sent last week.
15th of March 2024.
OK, well, listen, that adds to the fact I haven't seen the letter before, Senator. So, given the detail in the letter and given the detail of your questions last time, I just think it's appropriate in terms of a matter of completeness. I'll come back to you on notice.
No, I've got some questions for you tonight that I'd like you to answer, please, if that's OK.
Sure.
Thank you. On the 30th of June, there was that meeting where it was agreed that there was a serious safety risk. The next day, Assistant Commissioner Kerndering approaches the members and says that another threat assessment was going to be done. Why was that? One day later.
Senator, I'll go back to my previous answer. There's a fair amount of detail in this letter.
That's a very simple question,
no,
and we've traversed this before.
But you're asking questions about Assistant Commissioner Kerndering. He's not here. We haven't had the opportunity to digest the letter. We were here 3 weeks ago. We sent a detailed number of questions on notice that we're working through. I'm not going to go through line by line in relation to the letter, Senator.
So, given that Ms Gale's not here, who the letter was sent to, who's representing her today? Would Dr Walsh care to come up to the table? Dr Walsh, welcome. Thank you.
I just want to remind you that witnesses are able to refer an answer to a more senior officer, or they are entitled to take a question on notice.
Oh, of course. But these have been publicly ventilated questions,
but that's still within them.
I'm surprised that they don't have answers.
And you can express that, but they're able to take them on notice.
Thank you, Chair. Dr Walsh, can you answer the question why a second risk assessment was ordered?
Thank you, Senator. Dr Simon Walsh, Acting Chief International and Specialist Capabilities Officer. I've had no knowledge or previous involvement with this issue, Senator, so as with the previous answers, I'll have to take that on notice and look into it on your behalf.
This is quite surprising that the AFP would come here knowing that I would have questions on this matter, given previous interests, that you're just sort of trying to shove them under the table. I'm a little surprised.
Okay, Senator, if I can...
Excuse me, sorry. Excuse me.
I'm happy to answer the question.
I am obviously having a difficult time with my voice. That is unparliamentary, and I'm going to ask you to reflect and consider withdrawing.
I'll withdraw that.
So, Senator, just to assist, there was one question you provided last time in terms of the use of the ISO standard. To assist you, I'm happy to answer that question. And so the threat assessment methodology used for bulwark matters is aligned to guidelines in the Australian New Zealand Counter-Terrorism Committee, which are considered best practice for Australian and New Zealand law enforcement. The AFP's risk assessment template is based on this guidance from ISO 31000. The process followed is aligned with the guidelines in the protective policy framework on risk assessments. You provided detailed questions on notice. Those questions we're working through. They're not due back to this committee. That's my understanding. And again, but I'll reiterate the question, my answer in relation to this case, as I stated last time. We've spent thousands upon thousands of work hours in this case to assure that these members are protected. We've spent considerable effort continually assessing the threat and risks for this case, noting this requires ongoing engagement with former undercover officers. As of today, the AFP has not identified any direct threat in relation to these members.
That is quite surprising, given the depth of undercover work that they did, the breadth of it, the number of countries they worked in. And why did that first threat assessment find that they were subject to, let me get the words right, that they were found, where is it now, sorry, Chair, was something to certain threat level. And then the next day, I believe it was you, Commissioner, and you might want to confirm this, that you ordered another threat assessment done. Is it true that you ordered that?
So again, as I said, I'll repeat the answer. You've put those questions to us in notice. We're working through those. We're working through those questions. But I think going back to your previous point, I think you're slightly conflating issues, Senator. Were they in situations where there was an issue of risk and who they dealt with? Absolutely. Risk mitigation strategies were put in place. What I've said is, as we stand here, as we sit here tonight, we have not identified any threat from those groups in relation to the three members, and I think that's a really important point.
It may be to you, but it's irrelevant to me. The point I'm asking you is, why did you order another threat assessment a day after a meeting where it was agreed that there was a serious safety risk?
Yeah.
And further to that, why did you order a change of the terms of reference in that revised threat assessment?
Senator, as I've said, we will take those questions on notice.
You had personal knowledge of this. You ordered that threat assessment, and you ordered that the terms of reference be changed.
I can understand your question, but as a matter of complaints, we'll take that on notice, Senator. as with the other detailed questions you've provided us.
It's quite astounding that you can come here to estimates and not answer those questions. I'm rather quite shocked, but I can go
I've
on.
answered the key question. There's no identified threat in relation to the 3 members, and I think that's...
But there was. It was identified in the original one, which was done to the standard, which you have to follow by law. Under the Public Governance Performance and Accountability Act 2013, you are required to use ISO. And in the second risk assessment, threat assessment you didn't follow that, did you?
Again, we're taking those questions on notice, but there's no identified direct threat.
I understand the tactic that you're using. The AFPA, in their letter to...
Senator Van, it's not a tactic to comply with Senate rules.
Thanks, Jim. The AFPA say in this letter, it is deeply concerning that the AFP have seemingly abrogated their responsibility to act within the policy and legislative framework set out by the Commonwealth and the AFP itself. Do you agree with that statement?
Senator, we have not abrogated our responsibility to these members. As I've stated, we've spent thousands of hours working through the issues in relation to this case. Again, through that full process, we have not identified a direct threat in relation to the 3 members. If we did, we'd take action, Senator.
Did you change the terms of reference, and that's why you came up with your revised threat assessment, that there wasn't a threat to them?
What I can say is all processes were followed correctly, but again, we'll take those questions on notice because they relate to some of the previous questions you've asked at the last Senate hearing.
Then a more original question. Why did you remove organisational crime or organisational threats from the terms of reference?
I don't know what you're talking about, Senator.
Okay.
I'm confused.
It's quite clear between the 2 threat assessments that one of the threats that was removed was an organisational threat.
So,
do you agree?
So, Senator, I haven't got that level of detail here. And again, I'm complying with the guidelines of this committee in terms of question on notice. As a matter of completeness, we'll work through those questions. As a matter of completeness, we'll work through those questions on notice.
Do you honestly, sitting here, can you tell this committee that there is no threat to these gentlemen's lives?
I can.
That's just...
Senator Van, thank you very much.
What I can say, there's no direct threat.
Thank you. And for your information, Senator Van, those questions are due back on the 5th of April. And I'm sure the Commissioner will assist. Thank you, Senator Van.